Sometimes it pays to be lazy. Hi, welcome to another video. Today we are going to make this gorgeous cornucopia arrangement, my take on the cornucopia arrangement. And it pays to be lazy because I didn't go deadhead my roses that much this year, and I am rewarded with all these gorgeous rose hips. So let's get started. So today we're going to do a cornucopia arrangement. I'm sure you've seen this at your craft store, and this is an old one I've had for a long time. And I thought it'd be fun to show you my take on a cornucopia arrangement. Definitely a wonderful centerpiece for Thanksgiving and can be used throughout the fall season. So what we're going to use today are rose hips. I have these rose hips growing in my garden, and this is from a small climbing rose, and it's just covered in these huge branches of small rose hips. I also have some of the larger rose hips. We're going to use this beautiful apricot yellow colored garden style rose, some amaranth in burgundy, fall hydrangeas, and chocolate brown maple. You guys know I love my chocolate brown maple. What I'm going to show you first is the mechanics. What I have in here is what we call a gripper bowl. Gripper bowl is nothing fancy. It's basically just a florist bowl that's flat. They come in green and white, and they hold about a third block of floral foam perfectly. There's like a little smaller interior area that grips onto that piece of foam. And it's an inexpensive mechanic that we use for centerpieces or to line things, because obviously your cornucopia is porous and not watertight. And what I have is a third piece of floral foam in the gripper bowl, and I have it taped down securely, because you'll notice when you're designing with cornucopia, it's going to be somewhat unbalanced. All the materials are coming out of one side of the container, so sometimes it's going to want to start tipping. And so I've secured the gripper bowl with wire. I have wire gripping the bowl around the bowl tape, and I just put a piece of wire across the opening of our cornucopia so that as the arrangement gets bigger and heavier, the whole thing doesn't start pulling out. That's all I wanted to show you with cornucopia. It's by design unbalanced, so you're going to have more weight in the front, but if you secure it, it should be okay. Of course, you can always hot glue your gripper bowl to the cornucopia, but it gets a little bit messy when you're taking the flowers out. You want to be able to just remove this, pour the foam and flowers out, and you have your cornucopia you can store, right? So if you have it hot glued in, you're going to have to pry it off, and you could definitely wreck your cornucopia basket. So that's just a little note on the mechanics. And what I'm going to do is just start with setting the long line of the cornucopia. And I'm going to do this with this climbing rose hip. So cornucopia arrangement is wonderful because it really is expressive of the season, and it's about bounty and harvest. And it actually doesn't take a lot of materials because by design, it's only one-sided and you're just filling the opening, right? And having cascading elements. So I'm going to cut this little lateral piece off since it's going to interfere with our foam placement. Cut this at an angle and just kind of place it in here. A lot of thorns, and you can't strip it, right? So just be careful when you're working with rose hips. A lot of thorns, okay? And then I am going to reinforce that line with some of the maple. I'm going to have the maple kind of go underneath the long line of the rose hip. So I have a long piece of maple here. Just going to cut pieces off from there and then use it underneath. So often what we do is we reinforce a line. You want to elongate that line, make it longer, and since the rose hips is kind of an airy material with a lot of negative space, a little bit of greenery on the bottom here will reinforce that line, and it will cascade onto your table beautifully. Okay, here's another nice long piece of maple. Okay, and I think that's enough. I don't want to overdo that. And then I'm going to add in my roses, which is my main flower. Oh, before I add in the roses, I'm going to add in the fall hydrangeas. Now I've got tons of hydrangeas in the garden and they're starting to age this beautiful kind of burgundy color. And that's a wonderful background for the cornucopia. I don't want a lot of greenery in this, so I'm just going to set the hydrangeas kind of deep in the foam to cover the mechanics here. I'm going to use a smaller piece, kind of cut it really short and set it deep down in the foam here. Okay. And then I'm going to add my roses. I don't want to cover the foam entirely because I don't want to be too heavy-handed with the hydrangea. Love these garden spray roses in this beautiful apricot color. I thought I'd show you something in a subtle color scheme for Thanksgiving instead of the usual reds and oranges, just because, I don't know, just to be different. Okay. Here we have the roses added in. You can see what it looks like and how it could cascade down the table. I wanted to look kind of rustic and airy and really showcase all these beautiful natural elements. Okay. Then I'm going to work on this side of the cornucopia. Make sure it looks nice from this side. Add another stem of these roses here. Okay. I have some grapes here. I thought it'd be fun to use some artificial grapes in our arrangement, but that's not going to come till later. I'm going to put it back here. I'm going to pull some of the guard petals off my rose. These are the outer petals that sometimes are imperfect. Okay. Then I have some of this burgundy amaranthus. I'm going to add some in here. Kind of almost like a feathery texture. I love that. Okay, on top of our cornucopia. One thing with cornucopia arrangements is I kind of like it when the top part of your cornucopia has some interesting dimension to it. Don't keep it like too flat and too, I don't know. This opening here, I think it's prettier when there's something coming out of it. It's just a subjective thing that I wanted to show you. We're going to need another piece of amaranthus in here. And I'm going to add some more rose hips to sort of the edges of our cornucopia. That's what I mean. I think it's pretty when you've got some dimension to it. Some airiness and lightness up top. So there's a lot of movement to your cornucopia. It doesn't look heavy. Add in all the small rose hips. Now I have some larger rose hips here that I'm going to add in as extra color between the roses. That's why I chose sort of an apricot orange rose or apricot yellow rose, because I figured we can get the oranges from the rose hips here. See, do we need another stem of hydrangea here? Yeah, why not? Since I cut it. I'm going to add another stem of rose. You know what? I want a longer stem than this to cascade out from the front of the cornucopia. That's what I have added in here. A stem of rose here to elongate that line some more. I'm going to turn around to see what's missing from which side. It's pretty from all sides. I add another stem of roses up top. I just want to have like the roses kind of curving down throughout the arrangement. And let me add some maple in here. The stems of maple I have are sort of short, so I'm trying to find the appropriate pieces to add in here. Just adding some maple in between the roses to give it a little bit of room in between the roses to separate them so they're not all clustered together too much. You know, when you're a gardener, you're really aware of the seasons. Every season brings its beauty, right? Right now, I walk through the garden and there's a lot of beauty in the decay, right? Things are winding down, it's autumn, but there's beautiful seed pods, there's beautiful rose hips. So every season brings its joys. And I really wanted to showcase all that in this arrangement. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Let's see, should we add the grapes in? I have artificial grapes just because they're easier to work with. And I just have them wired to a wooden pick. Now I like to have this cascading down. Should we do the green one? Maybe the green cascading down would be nice here. Now it's going to make our arrangement even heavier. Maybe in the future I will put a rock at the end of my cornucopia to weigh it down. Let's see, where else can we have another stem of the grapes? Maybe up top here to balance the weight a little bit. Okay, I have a cluster up top. Then I have a small cluster I'm going to add in here just to have more of this burgundy color. Okay, let's see, I'm going to assess before I add anything else. Looks pretty good to me. What do you guys think? Maybe one of these larger rose hips up top. You know, it almost reminds me of creating a cascading bridal bouquet. Okay, I think we're done. So this is just a really sophisticated take on a cornucopia, using all the beautiful things you see in the garden right now, all that beautiful rose hip and maple leaves turning color, and these beautiful apricot roses. So we're all done. This is my take on the cornucopia arrangement. I love all these sophisticated colors and interesting materials, all the bounty from the garden that's expressive of this time of year. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this cornucopia arrangement and learned something today. As always, please like and subscribe. Send me a comment to let me know what you're doing for your Thanksgiving table, and I will see you in my next video.